object-oriented programming with a bunch of examples. In the first video, we will cover classes. Following that, we will define contracts using interfaces. In the third video, as we did before with generic function, we will write reusable code with generics. And at the end of this section, we will organize code using namespaces and understand modules. So in this video, we are going to focus on classes. First, I will briefly tell you why it's important to have classes in JavaScript. Then we will look at the class definition and we will create our first class and inheritance. Class. We use classes to represent the type of an object or entity. A class is composed of a name, attributes, and methods. Why classes? Classes offer a useful structural abstraction, provides a consistent way for developers to use classes instead of every framework like Ember, React, etc., coming up with their own version. And object-oriented developers already understand classes. So let's take a look how basic class definition look like. To declare a class in TypeScript, we have to use a class keyword. A class definition can include fields. A field is any variable declared in a class. Constructor, which is responsible for allocating memory for the objects of the class. Methods, functions that represent action an object can take. Static methods, etc. For example, we can create a class called person. Now we can declare a public field called hobby, which is a string. We can also define a static field, for example, static num of persons, which is a number and is equal to 0. We can also define a constructor, which can take some arguments, for example, private name, which is a string, or private age, which is a number. And if we declare a private keyword, it's equal to this name is equal to name. So that's how the TypeScript works. In the constructor body, we can increase a static field person.num of person ++. We can also define methods as private, but then it can't be seen by subclasses or accessed by any code other than that within the class. I will also create a method called info, which returns void. In the function body, we can console.logout this name, and then a space, and this age. Now let's create a first object. I will call that object John, which is equal to new person, and we can pass a string, so the name John and age, for example 26. And then we can call a info, and let's run this example. And as we can see on the console, it returns a string, John, with a number 26. Inheritance. One of the most fundamental top feature is its capability to extend existing classes and is known as inheritance, and allows us to create a new class, a child class, that inherits all the properties and methods from an existing class, a parent class. For example, we can create another class, for example, player, which extends from person, from a class person. Then we can define a constructor, which also takes a name, string, and age, which is a number. And to call a parent class, we have to provide a super method. So let's do that. Call a super and then pass name and age. And now let's create a player object, for example, Hank, which is equal to new player, and pass two arguments, a string name, for example, Hank, and age, which is a number 30. For that object, we can call a method info. So let's do that, and we can run it. On the console, we will see that there is a John and Hank. But also I will console.logout a John object and Hank object, and also run it. And as you can see, John is a person with age and name, and player extends from a person properties like age and a name. Cool! So in this video we have learned classes and inheritance.